Hey everybody, gather round. HOS4A2's back in town. Talking horror, guts, blood, and gore. We know you're gonna scream for more. The podcast for the recently deceased. Monsters, mayhem, fear unleashed. It's podcast for the recently deceased. We are slashers, vamps, and goats at beast. Silver screens and cursed tapes, jump scares that will contemplate, special guests and spooky lore. Turn up the volume and lock your door. The podcast for the recently deceased. Horror nerds on your souls we feast. It's podcast for the recently deceased. So grab your steak and call a priest.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm the boss, HOS4A2, Nate Roberts, here with, once again, Stephen Anthony from Dark Claw Studios.
Hey guys.
This week we will be discussing the genre-bending film with an identity crisis, Heart Eyes. To give you the quick lowdown, this is a romantic comedy slasher, kind of tries to hit the horror comedy genre. I'd say the comedy was light, the romance was mid. I'm going to give the horror high marks in this one, only because the gore was so fantastic. And it was really good. If you are into slashers, you cannot be disappointed by this movie. It definitely delivers in that department. Hard Eyes for me, with all the rom-com nostalgia, only landed at a 6 out of 10.
Okay, you are stingy with your numbers. This movie definitely goes dipping in and out of different genres, romance, comedy, and horror, but I would give it horror first, romance second, comedy last, but I thought it was extremely enjoyable. I give it an 8.
All right. After these nice little summaries, we like to move into deeper discussion where we will be spoiling the film. So, if you haven't seen the movie, go check it out and come on back and see what we thought. Or if you don't care, just keep watching anyway. All right. Now a 6. Don't just a 6 isn't stingy. For me a 5. For me a 5 is a good movie, right? A 5 is a good movie. A 6 is a little bit better. A 7 is a movie that I would recommend to a friend. 8 and up is something I'll watch again, you know. So a 6. I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna watch it again.
You wouldn't watch it again if it came up on Netflix and you had nothing to do and, just have something playing in the background?
I'd probably just watch Jurassic Park for the 200th time.
Jurassic Park is a good movie.
Yeah, it's a classic. Hard Eyes is not. Although it was extremely enjoyable, especially from like a rom-com fan. Like, I know I haven't been that into it for probably the last decade, but in my 20s, I devoured rom-coms. Like, I thought they were just like the greatest fucking movies out there. Yeah, I know I was wrong. It's okay.
You were wrong. I think The Wedding Planner is what assassinated any interest I had in that genre.
Yeah, The Wedding Planner. Oh man!
But I did notice how this movie referenced 10 Things I Hate About You and Bridesmaids. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that one little bit of dialogue. Yeah, that reference was great. I actually also really loved the male lead in this movie.
Yeah.
He is also in the Scream 5, Scream 6 reboots as one of the final 4. So in these Screams, Neve Campbell, the final girl, doesn't exist, and it's like a final 4. There's 2 sisters and then a brother-sister, 2 sibling duos that have survived both films into Scream 7. I don't know if you knew any of that, Stephen, but
I did not know. I thank you for the update. I did not know any of that. I stopped watching Scream at Scream 3.
Well,
I don't think there's anything that Wes Craven can put his executive producer name on that isn't awesome. But as soon as he gets in the writing room, what a heap of shit that movie's going to be.
Scream 3 was incredibly bad.
Incredibly bad.
And I think if you go back to like season 1 or 2, I am gonna say something right now that I said in an episode back then. The only good part of Scream 3 is when Courtney Cox runs into Jay and Silent Bob on the set, and Jay says, "Holy shit, Silent Bob, it's Connie Chung!"
Yeah, for me, it's whenever I watch Scream 3, I think of The Hills Have Eyes, which is the remake is probably one of my favorite horror movies, and so I ran to see The Hills Have Eyes 2, which, the first one was done by these French directors that got, his property, The Hills Have Eyes, made it awesome. Mm-hmm. And then he came back and put his stamp on the second one, and it just, it kind of looked like it, and it kind of smelt like it, but it just was just bad.
Sure.
So,
if we want to continue to digress into this Wes Craven rabbit hole for a bit, I don't know how long ago, so maybe a year, I went and watched The Last House on the Left, the original, for the first time. And I think that was Wes Craven's first or second film, if you check his IMDb. And it was, I'm going to say it was good, but it was painful. It was hard to watch. Back in the 70s, the limits could really be pushed for horror and just stuff you just couldn't even pretend to get away with today, especially as the sexual violence. Like it was rough.
Gratuitous.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. All right, back to Hard Eyes. This heartfelt wannabe rom-com wrapped in a horror taco shell burrito thing.
Okay.
There were some great references, right? So we got Devon Sawa of Final Destination and Chucky the TV show. He was also in Idle Hands as the guy cop, and then the girl cop. I'm looking her up right now.
Okay, I just looked up Devon Sawa. So my first unnecessary comment for this was Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw. Okay. So
which I appreciate the reference.
Yeah.
But it involved Jordana Brewster, which is in the Fast and Furious franchise, and Hobbs and Shaw is a Fast and Furious movie. So for me, that's a little too close, and that's when the metafiction kicks in, and that's where I get a little annoyed. So if you're going to pull me out of the movie with your metafiction comedy, please don't do that. So I would have liked the Hobbs and Shaw joke a lot more if it wasn't Jordana Brewster in that scene.
Well, so I think that's why they did Hobbs and Shaw, right? Because she was in, it looks like all of them except for 8.
And probably 3, because 3 is the one that's out of the whatever.
Oh, sure.
Out of the continuity. It's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3.
Yeah.
Or whatever the shit that is.
Yeah, so I thought that was I liked it, but once again, I'm not a Fast and the Furious person. So,
well, we were talking about Victor Gerber in a different conversation.
Oh yeah,
a little while ago, and they make more than one Titanic reference, one in The Flash and one in Legends of Tomorrow. And it's like, oh god, I get it.
Yeah. We know he was like the captain or whatever in that movie.
Right, the engineer.
Yeah.
But why? Just why? So, but yeah, okay, that's just me being super nitpicky, as usual.
Right. So the movie starts off. We get this sweet, the intro, the kills. Like you've got to get introduced. It's the hook, and then you can go the rules are you can go 20 minutes before there's another kill or whatever. So it's this couple getting engaged at a winery, and it was just hilarious. Everything about the scene,
I loved it.
Was amazing, right? They mess up the engagement, so he like yells at the photographer who didn't get the photo, and so they do it again. And
I'm gonna kill you on Yelp.
On Yelp,
not on
I'm
Yelp.
Not on Yelp.
Dick.
And then he immediately gets killed by Hard Eyes, right?
And when that immediate kill happened, that's when I said, "Okay, get ready. It's all bets are off."
Yeah.
That was a nice surprise kill.
Right. So then they start, they argue or whatever, and he makes another call to call she calls him. She takes his phone, and he gets whacked real quick. And then we've got the chase with the fiance, the female, and she ends up in a barrel, right, like a grapes barrel, gets crushed to death in an excellent sequence. Mm-hmm. And so from that moment, as a horror fan, you're like, oh, this is going to be good. The gore was good. The chase was good. Like, there was nothing bullshit and campy about it. And if you want to say camp, it's kind of like just a reference to camp. It's not even camp. Like, this is an A-list Hollywood movie with real budget, real money, real actors. Like here we go. Mm-hmm.
The note that I took during that scene, I thought it was awesome. I was like, okay, this is what the trash compactor scene in Star Wars would have looked like.
Sure.
If R2-D2 didn't ruin the movie. And we got to see them get squished. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. 3PO would have a lot to say about
I had a chance to steal, and I can hear you now. I had a chance to steal the spotlight, and I didn't say a thing. I just mimed for no reason.
All right. I'll fix it in post. So it's all right.
Yeah, most podcasts.
Just leave it in.
It's gonna get left in, guys.
So then what do we move on to? We move on to the meet cute, right? She's at the coffee place with her best friend, right? And they've got some good dialogue. I mean, there's not a lot to complain about in this movie.
No, there really isn't.
They have the meet cute with the guy, right? She's pining over her ex. They actually order the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh my god, what are the odds? And in the middle of it, the barista talks over them like, actually, it's a really common order. We're really busy. Could you just...
Right.
So then they bonk heads, and then they bonk heads again, like immediately after, and it's like bloodies his nose up a little bit.
I like the second bonking of the heads, and I thought it was a really nice introduction of the metallic straw, which is going to get a bigger role later in the movie.
Absolutely, the metallic straw was the smoking gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Introduce it in the first act. It must be fired in the second act.
Right. Environment saved.
Yes. Also, this scene is it's like a subtle thing. When he comes up, he's got the bloody nose, right? Mm-hmm. And she runs away. Okay. Mm-hmm. Later, much later, we find out she's a hemophiliac, and the guy says, "Funny, I didn't take you for a bigot," which was another good line, like solid line.
Is she a hemophiliac or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, not a hemophiliac, a hemophobic.
Hemophobic. Okay.
Yeah, she's hemophobic, and he goes, "Funny, I didn't take you for a bigot."
Right, which is a funny line.
But
the writing throughout the movie was very, very crisp in that regard.
Yeah, even if the jokes didn't land, like the writing was like, "Oh, I see what you did there. Nice turn of phrase." I'm not going to laugh out loud at it, but that's some good writing. Like it was.
That's something I would say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You understand now why she ran away. He came up with the bloody nose. She ran away. Mm-hmm. It never really got explained, like directly. You have to kind of put it together on your own, or maybe the second time you watch it, Stephen, you'll. So
that was going to be my question to you. Now, today is the second time that you saw that. Is that something that you noticed the first time, or is that something you noticed only this time, having seen it?
No. I just thought she ran away the first time I watched it. Watching it today, I said, "Oh, that's why she ran away. He came up with the bloody nose." Mm-hmm. And I mean, so that's just good paying attention to detail, I think, from a writer's perspective is like, we're going to say this about her later in the movie, so we have to have her acting this way early, even if we don't explain it to the audience. So, good job. Like, just good job all around.
My only input on that is that it gave the character a character arc, so that at the end of the movie, when we see the choice that she makes at her advertising firm, it's like, okay, now this makes sense, how she overcame something over her aversion to blood, her hemophobia. So that part I noted.
Right. That was her that was her hero's journey, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, usually it's a character flaw, but, whatever. We'll take a physical, flaw that gets cured or whatever. Same difference.
I mean, going through a traumatic murdering spree to conquer your fear so you can return to medical school.
Yeah.
Sounds legit.
No. That's good. I'm just saying it doesn't make her a better person, Stephen. It doesn't. She doesn't go from hating children to realizing the value of children and having one of her own by the end. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
This is a true hero's journey.
Fair enough.
But once again, it's a rom-com mixed with a slasher, so we're entering new territory here. We've seen horror comedies. We've seen hundreds, thousands of horror comedies.
Right.
We've not seen a movie take on this exact
the romance element, right?
Yeah, and I think they did it really well. The chemistry between the two main characters was excellent. Even when Jed,
that coffee shop scene, I thought was so important because I was rooting for the two of them straight from that scene. So they definitely clicked in terms of chemistry.
Oh, absolutely. And then she keeps denying him because she was hurt so bad by the guy. She left. She broke up with him, but she had to, she said, right? But it hurt her so bad to do it that she didn't want to like another person. She didn't want to like this guy. She was upset with herself for falling in like with him.
She's definitely heartbroken throughout the movie. I thought the references to the ex-boyfriend and her being on her phone looking at his social media, for me it happened maybe 1 or 0.5 too many times.
Right.
But she also had her reason for her love interest replacing her at her job, given some legitimacy to her her vocalization that she wanted to stay away from him, or her motivation to stay away from him.
Right. And then of course they're thrust together because of the job, and then they're forced to stay together through the rest of the film as they are Hard Eye's targets. And as we learn from the investigators at the beginning of the film, not only does Hard Eyes only kill couples on Valentine's Day, but he does kill anyone who gets in his way. So
right,
he gets a hard on for our two main characters, and then there's a ton of collateral damage.
Yeah, there's one news reporter, which the news reporters, if you're going to do that, and if you're going to use that as an exposition device, do it well, take it seriously, don't make it a joke. But that's just me being nitpicky. So I thought some of the newscasters were a little too comedic in how they were not being portrayed legitimately. But yes, one of the newscasters specifically made that point, if he's on a killing spree and you're in his way, you don't have to be romantically entangled to get killed.
Right.
So the rules of the game were laid out very, very well. I just wish the director or the writers would have taken it a little bit more seriously.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you gotta play it straight when you bring the news on to do any of your exposition.
Yeah, because you're giving information, and you don't want to break the fourth wall unless that's what the movie is doing. But that's not what newscasters are there for. They're there to give
build
reality, the fourth wall.
To give reality, to build, to keep it grounded, so to speak. I guess they kind of did break the fourth wall with the Hobbs and Shaw reference.
Hobbs and Shaw is fine. It
was fine. I like I know we brought it up already, but the best friend goes on, gives that speech where she says the titles of all of these rom-coms in a row.
So I thought that was fantastic.
It was fantastic. It was so well written. The way that she didn't have to shoehorn any words in there. Like
Right.
it actually made sense and flowed very well.
There's a Rihanna song that does that. It gets like every awesome 80s hit and just makes the titles of those songs the language that she's singing in the song. That's what they did here, except they did it with movies and it became her dialogue. And it just shows you how unnecessary movie titles are and just how utterly thoughtless they can be.
Sure.
She wasn't gonna shoehorn the Shawshank Redemption into that.
Right.
Dialogue. That wasn't happening.
No, absolutely not.
So that was great.
Yeah, that was great. All right, so what else? What else do we have? We have the big showdown in the police station. Of course, there's a mix-up, and the male lead gets accused of being Hard Eyes and arrested. So Hard Eyes has to go to the station, kill a bunch of people, try to kill them there. That was a great sequence.
So I love that. I don't know if that's a trope or whatever that is, but just the whole trapped at a cop station thing. If somebody can make a series out of that, or just make an entire movie out of that, you know, where we could somehow Groundhog Day and just relive it over and over again and make up some kind of explanation. So I loved that, whatever it was, 5, 10, 15 minutes that they were at
Yeah,
the cop
it was a
station.
long scene. Like,
Yeah.
it was a long bit of scenes, a long sequence. Yeah,
And if for a horror movie, you had to suspend some disbelief, but you didn't have to suspend disbelief when Hobbs handcuffed the main male protagonist to the interrogation table. That's something a detective would do.
yeah.
And it's like, you dick.
As soon as it happens, you're like, oh, well, the bad guy's getting in this room.
Right.
Like, that's definitely happening.
Okay. Yeah, and the main character is, just so I don't sound like I'm remiss, was Jay, right? It was Jay Simmons.
Yeah. Jay Simmons. Let's look that up real quick, just so we stop saying the main character over.
Yeah, main male protagonist.
Yeah.
Sorry. Y'all.
We have Jay and Allie. Jay and Allie.
Allie the hemophobe and Jay the
Jay the cuddler. I love the scene where they talk about. She's like, you're all muscle. And it's like, this muscle was made for cuddling, not for fighting serial killers.
that was a great line.
He gets knocked out every time he like encounters the bad guy. Is like, first thing the bad guy does is knock this guy right out.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things I was looking out for in this movie was, is it going to be Die Hard where Bruce Willis gets actually wounded, or is it going to be, you know, everybody today in every action movie has got some kind of healing effect? Is it going to be Wolverine and this, you know, Jay and Hard Eyes are both going to be invulnerable? And they weren't. They took their hits, and Jay very early on, breaking Allie's door to get in, got wounded early on.
Yep.
Which gave us a great chance to look into her history, to build that character arc that we were talking about, and to show that he was definitely going to get the first of many wounds to come.
Yeah, no, they did a good job, like with the consistency of the damage, if you will, that the characters took throughout the film. So we come to the climax, right?
There was that whole section in the drive-in.
Let's do the drive-in first, right? So
I thought the drive-in was awesome, and I thought a great line, which I do want to go back, and I definitely want to watch that scene again, if not the whole movie again, when they're saying, do you realize what we just did? Yeah, we just brought a serial killer to an all-you-can-kill buffet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that the first time I've heard that? That was so good.
Such a good line. All couples watching this classic, I want to say Katharine Hepburn, but it might have been an Audrey Hepburn movie.
So was that a real movie that was playing on the drive-in screen?
I think so. I didn't look it up.
Okay.
I think Audrey Hepburn was on the screen, But I love that the van they get into hideout has like two hippies in the back boning. And they like don't even care that these two are sitting in the front of the van. They just keep doing their thing. And they're like, we're hiding from Hard Eyes, and they're like, Hard Eyes is out there? That's so hot. And it just makes their lovemaking like even better.
So if I had one bone to pick, it's when I thought a great scene that we just skipped over. She found her accessory in her bedroom.
Right.
When Jay is first coming over, so she's concerned. She's getting rid of that. She wants to chuck it into the closet. Holy shit, he's there.
Yeah.
And she's about to say the F-bomb anyway.
Yeah.
So she's like, fuck, when she sees him, throws it out. Great sequence, awesome. But then they get the door closed and like, okay, the door's closed, and then they take a break and they start leaning up against the door. Is it me? Just maybe I'm a paranoid kid from Brooklyn where you get away from the killer, you run, you don't stop, you don't talk about it, you don't rest up against the door. But when they got to the van, that actually made sense to me. Where, the two hippies would continue boning.
Yeah. And they just like slunk down in their seats so they couldn't see him, right? And they get a nice break. They get a nice break to talk, and this is actually part of the escalation of the romance between these two characters happens here in this dialogue. But it cuts away to show Hard Eyes literally randomly stabbing people in the drive-in.
And another thing that I noticed from Hard Eyes early on, and I noticed in this scene as well, it was nice to have a killer that had more than one weapon.
Right.
So if you're writing a horror movie, it's like, okay, what mask is he going to have? That was obviously a question that the writers asked themselves that they came up with an answer with, and it came into the whole Valentine's Day thing. I thought that was great. It was like, okay, what weapon is he going to have? This guy had multiple weapons. I loved the crossbow. I loved the knives. I loved the short sword. I loved the guns. And the guns solved a lot of horror movie problems. What do we do about cell phones? Shoot it out of his hand.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Great answer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, I would normally. I think the worst weapon to put into a slasher is a gun, but in the showdown, it was so necessary to have, just because of its power. Like you can't get out of a hopeless situation with a lucky throwing dagger I picked up a rock and I got really, really lucky with this rock against the guy is tied up. I've got the impromptu weapon and the two bad guys are going to kill us. Right. But with a gun you can turn the tables or at least have a fighting chance, and that it definitely allowed them to do that in that scene.
And there's that great scene in the police station where they're talking to each other through the glass, and he says exactly what he needs her to do. Us as the audience, we don't see whether or not she's dead, or as we find out, no, she's actually doing it.
Yep.
And she gets Hobbs' keys and weapon and starts to shoot the glass. So I think a gun can definitely switch the genre of a movie, which is something you don't want to do. That did not happen here. They kept it a horror movie. They used a gun just about as well as you can use it in a horror movie.
Oh, absolutely. Because they ended it right there in that scene. At that point, she emptied the clip into the wall because she is such a terrible shot, which was the next line.
Right.
It's like, thanks for rescuing me. You're a terrible shot, by the way.
She could be a stormtrooper.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes the gun useless. So it served its purpose for the scene to break the window and to chase Hard Eyes away without wounding him.
And I thought it was a really cool device to have the interrogation room glass start to break from the other side. I just never seen that before. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Who breaks into the interrogation room? It's always people breaking out.
Right.
So
we're at the drive-in, or are we past that?
I mean, the drive-in. So the drive-in is more of a chaotic scene, right? We actually get two of the best kills when the hippies are making so much noise that our main characters are like, quiet down, Hard Eyes is gonna hear you.
Right, and that's a little bit of that Scream reference where it's like, okay, there are rules to being in a horror movie. You're breaking the rules of being in a horror movie.
Yep.
And you're about to get killed in such an awesome way.
Such an awesome way. So she's on top, and his head is like where the two back doors of an old man would open, right? So Hard Eyes opens the door, she screams, he takes a fucking tire iron and he just puts it through his head,
which is great,
or through his mouth, and like the crossbar goes down too. So it like excellently delivered here, and then I forgot what he puts through her, but
it's the follow-up. After he puts the crowbar into the guy, he gets the girl, grabs her head, and punches it down.
And slams it down on the one piece sticking up.
Which is a great effect that movies have been doing recently. I saw Denzel Washington do that in The Equalizer or something, where he just shot somebody through somebody's mouth.
Right.
So it's kind of like similar to that, where it's like, okay, we're going to get the crowbar and just use it as a stationary. Whoever thought of that, fantastic sequence. I loved it.
Because then her head comes back up, and now she's got the hole in the back of her head, and you just get to see through it for a moment.
Yeah, it's almost convenient. You can see right through her.
Yeah, it was good.
She's transparent.
Yeah. So that's when everybody screams and everybody starts to panic and run, and Hard Eyes is just literally just gacking people as he's walking by them. And our main characters, they start to run, but then they realize that they caused this problem and that they should probably be the ones to face it head on. We led him here with all these innocent people, so they actually face him, and together they do kill this Hard Eyes.
So when I rewatched the movie a second time, when I watched it, I just let it go. She gives this speech, sort of like, we're in this together, we're a team. If we don't stop him, he's going to continue killing. It's a very, very selfless, noble thing to say and do. Is it bullshit? Do they
just run in the real world? Probably. I mean, they didn't really have a weapon, right? They had to find a weapon.
You got away if you don't have your cell phones in a world where payphones don't exist anymore, and they should seriously bring those back. Find somebody that has, call 911, somehow do that first before you go on your... Me just being super picky, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do dispatch this Hard Eyes, which is great because he stabs Hard Eyes through the back and out his chest, which covers her in blood, and then he slumps down to the side, and then she pukes on him twice.
I thought that was great.
Which I thought was great.
Fantastic.
I know that we talked about puke last week.
Did we?
In Borderline.
Because I didn't think this puke was thick enough. I thought it was a little too watery.
It was too watery, but there's definitely a puke theme, and we like it both times.
I don't remember
in Borderline. The security guard puked, and it went into her mouth, and she just kept laughing.
Okay. Yes. The psychopath, the French psychopath at the door.
Girl. Yeah, when she killed the security guard. Yeah.
So, yes, when we write a horror movie, make a note, use puke, and use it very, very well.
Use puke in a creative way, and you will yield positive results. It's the moral of this one, I think.
Yes.
All right, so naturally in a movie like this, there's got to be more than one killer. So what happens? They try to they wrap things up with an ambulance, and he invites her to the hotel, and she's like, "Look, I can't." And he leaves. He gets a ride with the female cop, and she calls the best friend, and they talk, and the best friend talks her into going for it. Cause she's
okay, so can we break down the scene a little bit when they're at the ambulance? Whoever wrote this never worked in medical transport. You do not take a blanket away from somebody.
that was funny.
Because you have another run. The hospitals, wherever you're going, has more blankets. So you guys know.
What I also liked about that scene is that character, that woman the EMT driver. I kind of felt like she was pushing them to get together, And as soon as he left, and she saw she wasn't going with him, she was like, "Give me back that fucking blanket." Like, so I honestly, I don't think that blanket thing was procedure. I think that blanket thing was written in there, and it was supposed to be spiteful.
It was her saying, "Wait, you're not getting with this guy, then you don't get my blanket.
You don't get my blanket."
In that case, forgive him.
Yeah, that's. I think that's what happened. If I could be wrong.
But as soon as Shaw, Janine Shaw, right? That was her name?
Janine Shaw, JS.
JS.
Same initials as J. Simmons. Yes.
Right. So for the mystery fans out there, which I am not one of those people that when first watch Scream try to figure it out. Is it the sheriff? Is it the boyfriend? Is it the photographer? I'm just going to enjoy it, eat my popcorn, and enjoy who it is at the end. But at that point, if Jordana Brewster, if Jay Shaw was not a suspect of yours early on, when she's in the trash compactor barrel, she's definitely a suspect now.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know the movie's not going to end. You know there's more shit that's about to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And she is aggressively pursuing to get him in the cop car, and not just because he's a smoking hot piece of ass that she wants to get on top of, but something's about to go down.
Oh, yeah. It was at this, like, I wasn't trying to figure it out either, but at this moment, when she said, "Oh, I'll give you a ride home," my brain went, "Oh, she's the next killer."
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I didn't think that there were three. I just assumed that there would be two. So the third killer was a shock. Not the third killer was a shock, because the first reveal is the IT guy from the police station,
David.
Yeah, David. So at that moment, I was like, "Oh, I was wrong."
I remember David's name, and I forgot Jay Simmons' name. I remember the IT guy's name. I forgot the main guy's name.
All right, so what happens? She goes to the airport to rom-com style. "No, don't get on the plane." And she gets a call from Jay's cell phone, and it is Hard Eyes, inviting her to St. Valentine's Cathedral.
It was from unknown caller. So would she?
Oh, was it from unknown caller?
It was from unknown caller. Would she have saved Jay's number because you're working with this guy? I would assume that.
Right. And she also just wrote it. She just got it written on her hand at the ambulance scene too. So that would also make sense.
Right. That was his number. Okay.
Yeah.
So either way,
it's Hard Eyes. Come to St. Valentine's Cathedral alone, or I'll kill him. If you call anyone for help, I'll kill him. Naturally, the next scene, she's stepping out of a cab right in front of St. Valentine's Cathedral.
Again, way better than I would ever be. I am calling people. I am calling 911. Look, this jerk off wants me to show up at a church.
Just go in there and do your job, please. I don't want to lose any more relatives.
Friends. Yeah, you guys have SWAT. You guys have contingencies for this shit.
Yeah. So we get a pretty sweet showdown. He's tied up. She walks in. We get the crazy reveal that everybody has a fetish, everybody has a kink, and that is the second time it's said. It was said once earlier in the film. So
it was said in the barrel scene when Jordana Brewster is foreshadowing and giving us, is it possible that they're working with a partner? And that's when I said, "Oh shit, there's going to be more than one killer. Let me just," and that's when I stopped trying to figure it out. Let me just enjoy it and figure out. Just watch what happens.
Right.
If there's going to be more than one, okay, it could be anybody.
So what do we get here? We get
the throuple.
We get the throuple explanation, right? David and Jordana Brewster.
Yes.
Janine.
David and Janine. She's like, "Janine Shaw, bitch."
Yeah. They fell in love in a chat room 10 years ago, and she's like a bit of a dom and makes him do stuff, and they love killing couples together, and that's their kink, that's their thing. And the third guy was just a third. He was just obsessed.
He was a fanboy, right?
Yeah, he was a fanboy, probably Hard Eyes fanboy. Fell hard for Janine, according to Janine.
Right, they had a little bit of banter there between Janine and David.
Yeah,
it was funny.
Yep, and then so the David kill's pretty good, right? He gets like shot through the side.
I thought the David kill was great. I have a thing for for eyes. Don't go near eyes whenever which is why I don't watch a whole lot of horror movies. If you're gonna screw with somebody's eyes, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And I love that scene.
Yeah, it's a great kill.
Yeah, awesome.
He falls into the candle mess, and yeah, excellent stuff. But then, I mean, not to be outdone, and this is something you have to do as a slasher writer, is you have to make your kills fun and interesting. And as a director, I would say, steer away from CG as much as you can. Use as much practical as you can. Use a little bit of CG for enhancement. Don't rely on it. And they did a great job with all these kills. The Janine kill is exceptional.
I thought the Janine kill was great, and I was watching it, and I was like, I know this is a classic, something that's been done way before AI and CGI, but how the heck are they doing this?
Yeah.
To the point, it didn't pull me out of the movie. I was just enjoying watching her get decapitated.
Right.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. So she gets run through backwards by Allie pushing her onto a sword on a statue that cuts through here. But
and that was the St. Valentine statue,
St. Valentine statue, yeah.
Which I like that they made a reference. I was like, Heart Eyes is a very lazy name, but being how they referenced St. Valentine's, because it was a massacre,
yep.
I was like, okay, this, it gave it some credibility.
And what does she say at the end? She looks at the statue.
She's like, your holiday sucks.
Your holiday sucks. So she gets the sword through the throat, but then we get a moment where she's coming back to life maybe, and she grabs the sword, but then you see that her feet aren't touching the ground, and she's like kicking her feet, and then all of a sudden the weight of the body starts to pull, and then and the neck stretches, and the body collapses and squirts from the neck, and the head falls off the sword and like practically into her lap, and they just, I mean, that kill just
it was awesome. It was accurate. That's actually what would happen. Gravity is a bitch.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought it was great. The body fell, and when the body fell, that's when I started internally asking questions like, okay, well they could do that easily enough, and then the head's on top, and then the head falls down, and I was like, oh, this is so good. So great.
So what happens? We get they fall in love. It goes a year later. They're at the drive-in. They're like, is it weird that we're at the drive-in?
And the answer to that question is a profound, resounding yes. It is fucking weird.
But I
don't give a shit what you realize there. It is weird for you to go to the spot where you took your serial killer hunter to an all-you-can-kill buffet to propose, moving in.
Right.
That is weird, dude.
So he proposes moving in, and she's like, "No, I don't want a key. I want the whole damn steak."
Right.
And she proposes back.
I don't want the milk. I want the cow.
I want the cow, and he gets weepy. And then we get credits, and there's an after credit scene. Did you watch it?
I did watch the after credit scene because that's when I was cleaning up my backdrop, and then I heard something. I was like, oh, more for me to watch.
Yeah.
So obviously there's an end credit scene in every single movie today.
Yep.
But this one was enjoyable. I thought the best friend was a dick. I thought before we completely get away from Jordana Brewster, do you know, because you're the expert in this arena, has she been in horror movies before? That you know of?
Not that I know of.
I just know her from Fast and the Furious and Dallas.
Oh, was it Mummy? Was she in the Mummy?
Oh, with George of the Jungle?
Yeah.
The Whale?
Oh, she was in The Faculty, which
I saw that movie.
Yeah, when in 1998.
That's Katie Holmes, isn't it?
No, Katie Holmes is not in The Faculty. No.
Yes, she is. With Robert Patrick, the Terminator.
Yes, Robert Patrick. Katie Holmes is not in it. It's Jordana Brewster is the main character. It's her. Or is the lead female character. Because it's also Josh Hartnett and funny thing about Scream was written by Kevin Williamson. So was The Faculty.
Okay, yeah, you are absolutely correct. I'm on The Faculty's IMDb right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was that horror movie that Katie Holmes was in then?
Katie Holmes. This was back in our day, right?
Yeah.
We're talking the late...
Around the same time as The Faculty, yeah.
The late 90s. She was in Disturbing Behavior.
That's it. Thank you.
Which, yeah, that one was like my least watched of that series of horror movies. Like I watched Idle Hands and
Isn't Idle Hands a comedy?
yeah, but it's a horror movie.
Isn't that the one that's done by the new Scotty from Star Trek? Isn't that him?
No.
That Scottish actor that played Scotty.
No, he died.
Wait, Shaun of the Dead is dead?
Oh, Scotty. Sorry, no. Simon Pegg.
That's it.
Yeah, and no, Simon Pegg was not in Idle Hands. Idle Hands was Devon Sawa and Seth Green.
Seth Green's fantastic. We love him.
And some other people. I don't know.
Devon Sawa was going to appreciate all the times.
No, seriously,
the
the guy's very underrated. Like he did, it was. I think it was just Idle Hands and Final Destination, and now in his comeback, he's been in a bunch of great horror movies. He's in the horror comedy Black Friday with Bruce Campbell, all 3 seasons of Chucky, the TV show, which was phenomenal. If you're even remotely a Chucky fan, it's just some of the best horror comedy that's ever been done, where all the kills are good, all the horror is good, and all the comedy is spot on.
That is something I'm going to have to put on my horror bucket list. And I'm not going to lose any credibility here by mentioning that I've never seen any Child's Play anything.
Well, at least you know that it's called Child's Play. Like I think you get some street points, cred points for that or whatever.
And I know that Aubrey Plaza was in the remake of it, wasn't she?
She was, and that movie was terrible. And
was it?
You can take it right off your Child's Play bucket list.
So take that off. So I'm watching the TV show and the original movies. Am I watching all of the original movies?
Yeah, there's like 9 of them.
9?
Yeah. There's Child's Play 1, 2, and 3. Then you've got Bride of Chucky, Son of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky.
It's a lot of Chucky. Which one is Jennifer Tilly in? Not that I'm watching that for any other motivation.
She's literally in all of them except for the original 3.
Okay.
So Bride of Chucky, she is Bride of Chucky, and then she's a main character through the rest.
She's the Neve Campbell of the second half of that series.
Yeah. They also have a kid. And the kid is non-binary, LGBT, and Chucky and Jennifer Tilly are both, or what's her name? I think it is Tiffany, the character's name. Very supportive. Actually, they split them into 2.
They split the non-binary character into 2.
Yeah, and one of them is a biological male who's trans, and the other one is a biological female who's trans. It's how they end up. Okay.
I have no idea. I don't know if you're talking about like a metaphysical thing or a physical thing.
Well, they don't get into the science of it. That's just kind of this is the information you get.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it does get really into the voodoo of it, and they body swap a lot. They make copies of their they split their souls and put them into a bunch of different dolls. They do a bunch. That's where I was confused, and I didn't know if this is like one person becoming 2 people. That's different aspects of their personality. If that's what now I understand. Yeah. Well, it's crazy. Brad Dourif, who's the voice of Chucky.
Love Brad Dourif.
Yeah, his daughter, who's a great actress. Who's in Cult of Chucky, plays a character in Cult of Chucky. That character comes into play in the series, and Chucky puts his soul into her. So they'll fight over control of the body. So sometimes it's Brad Dourif's daughter acting as this character, and sometimes it's Brad Dourif's daughter doing an impression of her father being Chucky in her body. And it is fucking brilliant.
Brad Dourif I know from Lord of the Rings, of course, and Alien Resurrection, probably my favorite Alien film.
Alien Resurrection, and also The Exorcist 3, which is definitely worth watching. The only sequel worth watching in that entire franchise.
I own The Exorcist 0, and I got to tell you, I think it sucks.
Yeah, it is. It is bad.
Okay.
1 and 3 are the only two good ones, and 3 is a direct sequel to 1. If you didn't know,
Why do I own movies that just suck?
I don't know.
Like, I own the Amityville Horror, sucks. I own Exorcist Zero, sucks.
You probably have Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which is also the worst.
So, I know this is not what we're talking about today, but in Freddy vs. Jason, when they wrote that, they tried to rescue Nightmare on Elm Street 2 by doing whatever the bleep happened in that movie and put, like, at least, like, give some mention of it or whatever of it. But, I did see Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I did think it was absolute trash. The first movie was great. The movies that made us, that talk about how that movie got made, is awesome. But Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Freddy vs. Jason, for me, are my favorite.
3 is definitely... 3 is hands down the best.
I think that's the empire of that series.
Absolutely. Dream Warriors, so good.
It's so good.
So good.
Even though one of them had a really shitty power of being like a gymnast. You get powers because you're in a dream and you're flipping it around at Freddy and you're going to turn into a gymnast? You could do that on Earth. You could do that here. Just go to the gym, you lazy bastard.
That's true. And even though, we lost Johnny Depp, we did get the original Nancy, and we got, I believe, Patricia Arquette.
We didn't lose Johnny Depp.
He wasn't in 3. He just wasn't in 3. He got
killed in his bed, which is something Johnny talks about in a lot of interviews. Like, he's not shy of being. He's kind of proud of that.
It's a great scene.
It's a great scene. There's a couple things they did right in that movie. There's a couple things they did wrong. The stairs being made out of porridge, they did incredibly right. Having the actress be a blow-up doll that got sucked through the window glass, god awful.
Yeah, that one was bad. But the one where she gets like thrown up the wall and up across the ceiling, and the first kill actually, was also phenomenal.
But I thought for a low back then it was a low budget movie. Yeah. It was the movie. It was the I think they call New Line Cinema the house that Freddy built.
Right.
And for a low budget movie, I thought Johnny's kill was great. The blood that came shooting out of that bed, I thought that was awesome.
Also, Wes Craven. So it all comes back to him. This was a whole evening of Wes Craven.
The guy does do some things right, and when you're watching a movie like Hard Eyes, that just is going to be somewhat reminiscent of Scream, and just has an appreciation for the genre. You can't talk about the genre without talking about Wes Craven.
It's true.
You got to give the guy his due.
That's true. But since we've done this much talking about Wes Craven, I just have to say that he's no John Carpenter. And with that, I gave Hard Eyes a 6.
So let's compliment Wes Craven. Let's give him just a little bit of shade.
I give him a 6 with a. If you're a slasher fan, definitely go see it. How about that?
Oh, definitely go see this movie. It's very, very enjoyable. Other than the nitpicky things I talked about with the newscaster and the Hobbs and Shaw joke, that's literally the only two things I didn't enjoy. Everything else I enjoyed rapidly. Maybe I'm not stingy enough with my ratings. You're not going to convince me to come down to a 7, and maybe this will be something I regret in a few years when I look back at this. I'm going to stick with my 8. Highly enjoyable movie. I thought, looking at it, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. Being a horror writer, you always have to come up with a mask and a weapon. I thought what they did with the weapons was great. I know I said that already, but I thought the mask was going to be really fucking stupid until his night vision came on, and I said, "That's awesome. That's badass." So
I also thought the mask was going to be dumb until I saw it. I thought the night vision was an excellent upgrade, but when you see it right in the opening scene, it's out in the daylight, like it's this crusty leather and like sewn up, and yeah, I thought it was great. I loved it. Okay, Stephen Anthony for the podcast for the recently deceased. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.
HOS4A2, thank you very much. If I could just shamelessly plug, guys, go check out darkclawstudios.com with the awesome scary comics in the back. This was a lot of fun. Go check out Hard Eyes, and thank you for checking out the podcast with the recently deceased.
Absolutely, which you can subscribe to at BasementMedia.Online, as well as find all of our written film reviews.
That website sounds sketchy as fuck. Is that on the dark web? What is that?
BasementMedia.Online.
BasementMedia.Online.
BasementMedia.Online. Because we are online, not inline.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, you'll find the audio links to the podcast there for Spotify and for iTunes, as well as the YouTube links for the show and some other stuff. A bunch of the written reviews, the actual, if you want to read, if anybody does that anymore. I still write them. I don't care if nobody reads them.
There are people who still read out there, and they are beautiful, beautiful people. But for the people to check this out, because it's not a .com and it's not the shady .net and it's not the shady one with like 2 initials where you go check out your illegal website where you could watch, Star Trek Picard for free. It's BasementMedia.Online. Right?
Online, that's correct.
Haas, I got that right?
You got that right.
All right. Just wanted to make sure.
All right. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Nate Roberts, and we'll see you next week.
Later, guys.